Very good morning, everyone. Very good morning. Just a second. All right. So, good morning, all of you. Welcome back. Very good morning. Welcome back in our editorial analysis series. Today we have this editorial from Business Standard, and I hope you all are doing good. You are reading these editorials and trying to understand what is happening, right? See, once you get a habit of understanding editorials and reading editorials, you will be able to understand complex things. You will be able to write magnificent answers, in your descriptive paper, because you will be able to interlink all these things, right? So your answer will stand different from the others. It will fetch you more marks. So keep on studying these editorials and articles, okay? I'm good, thank you. I hope you all are good as well. So let's begin with the analysis. Nowadays, since new government has been formed, there is new council of ministers, as you all know. So these editorials are more of like what should be the policy of the new government. So economic editorials are there, but they are focusing upon the policy prospects, right? So I have filtered out this article which seems to be somewhat relevant for us. It is related to free trade. We will get to understand 2-3 new terms here. That's why I picked up this, and this is from your Business Standard of today, okay? So here is your article. The title is Changing Terms of Trade. Changing Terms of Trade. So basically the author in this entire editorial will be talking about the importance of trade. Author has suggested that India needs to capitalize more upon trade. It has to trade more. Why do we have to trade more? Because it is there are economic theories, there are theories which say that it is due to trade that both the countries which are trading with each other gets benefited. Without trade, you cannot grow in the present era of intensive globalization, right? So this is the thing here. Trade is the main central idea of the editorial is trade. Importance of trade, what India has been lagging behind in terms of trade, what India should do to increase its trade and to increase its growth via trade. Okay, so this is the entire editorial. Let's see what happens, what is the analysis, how does it goes along. Okay, so here is the title, here is my title, boosting exports is the new key. So author suggests that boosting exports will help your country rise to higher levels. Okay, let's see. As you can see here, India must aim to boost exports share. India must aim to boost exports share. So this is the first slide. Need to trade more. Yes, we need to trade more. Why? What are the circumstances going on? What is the phenomena related to trade? What is the backdrop? All things will be discussed here. Okay, so author says there is a need to revisit policy issues and make interventions to achieve higher sustainable growth in the long run. See, only achieving growth is not important. Sustaining the growth is important, right? As they say, there is a famous saying in English, I don't remember exactly the saying, but I remember the meaning, that becoming successful is not very difficult. Holding that success, performing your best at that successful level is what makes the difference, okay? How do you take your success? How do you treat everyone when you are successful is more important. So only becoming richer as an economy is not important. How do you maintain that growth? Are you able to distribute the prospects of that growth to all the segments of your economy or the country? Are you able to mainstream all the say subaltern sections of the country, the sideline sections of the country, the backward strata of the country, right? Are you able to integrate them? All these things are important. To have a wholesome or inclusive growth and sustainable growth which sustains for a long period of time, you need to have more trade. Okay, this is the thing. So here is importance of trade in economy's growth, right? One such area is trade. So the author says one such area through which an economy can have more sustainable development or more sustained economic growth is your trade. Okay, it is well established in economics as a subject that international trade significantly drives aggregate demand. So author says that it is very widely accepted and it is established that trade significantly increases aggregate demand. And you know, I have told you a number of times that aggregate demand is the driver of economic growth, isn't it? One more thing I want to discuss with you. See, my intention behind explaining everything stepwise to you has a logic, has another intention. What is that intention? I want you to write beautifully presented answers, okay, not in paragraphs or in lines. You have to write paragraphs as well, but for economics you can use chain reactions. Like, so when we say, that's how I explain to you that this happens, so this that happens, then that happens, right? Step by step, chain reaction. So when we say that trade grows, it leads to aggregate demand. Okay, so you can explain these phenomena, you have advantage in this subject very beautifully. When you explain them in a chain reaction manner, it gives an indication to the examiner that you are confident about the concept. It will fetch you an extra mark. Getting my point? And when it seems that you are confident, your answer will stand out, you will save your words and time, that time can be devoted to some other question, some other answer. Getting my point? So say you have to analyze this fact that, you know, if trade is contributing to higher aggregate demand, how will the economy benefit? So you can represent it like this. Say more exports or more trade. Okay, so exports are what? Exports are what? Exports are foreign demand. It is demand only, right? Demand of your goods, but demand arising out of foreign countries, right? So it is leading to rise in aggregate demand in your economy for your domestically produced goods, right? So you can explain like this. Exports increases, you can show aggregate demand increases. Now what happens? If aggregate demand increases, when demand increases, prices of the product increases, isn't it? Prices increase. When prices increase, it gives incentive to the supplier to supply more or produce more. So output increases. Output increases. When output increases, if you want to produce more, you need more labor to do that, right? More employment. Employment opportunities generate. So employment increases. Employment increases. Employment increases. Employment increases, then your per capita income increases. Per capita income. Say more people are earning, right? They will be earning more per capita income. When overall income increases, your national income increases. National income increases. Now when national income increases, that is what we call as GDP. Isn't it? So when you are growing, your economy is performing well, you are able to generate a good amount of output at the national level, then again you will export more, because output and income are simultaneously used. Remember, income also means output. So if I say national income is increasing, I mean gross domestic product or output is also increasing. Why? Income and output or income and product are interchangeably used in economics, because income and output are just two sides of the same coin. Okay, what you have produced, you will earn out of it. So if you have produced, say, $100 billion worth of 100 billion rupee worth of goods, then 100 billion rupee will be generated as income because you will sell those goods, isn't it? So income and output will be used simultaneously or interchangeably. So if your national income increases, it means your production increases. Your production increases, again your exports will increase, again that will lead to growth in your economy. So this is how this cycle or chain reaction goes on and on. Getting my point? So my intention behind explaining in this way is that you should use these things in your answer writing. Yes, consumption and saving increases and we are becoming a mature economy as our growth is saving driven and less of consumption driven as per last year. Yes, of course. In the last class we have discussed that India is more driven by investments, less than consumption. But also remember that we have also discussed that we are witnessing demographic dividend. We also need to adhere to the demand of the youth, which is the maximum in the population right now, isn't it? Yeah, we need a balanced growth. Of course, you cannot compromise on demand. Remember, you will only be able to invest when there is demand. Why am I saying that? Because when there is demand, there will be growth, there will be income, then only you will be able to earn. Unless you are able to earn, you will not be able to save, and when there is no saving, there will be no investment. Getting my point? So all the things are interrelated. We cannot negate the contribution of any of these macroeconomic variable. We can just try to find a balance in between. Clear? So I hope you understood the reason behind explaining in this kind of chain reaction. You can use these chain reactions in your answers. Got it? Now let's get back to the editorial. In this way, I also explained you that if trade increases, as you see, the author has said that trade significantly drives aggregate demand. And when aggregate demand increases, there will be this growth cycle which I just explained to you, right? And no country can achieve rapid growth without expanding exports. Remember, no country can achieve rapid growth without expanding its exports. Okay? Now, higher exports. So, basically, the author says India now, since new government has been formed, we have new policies, new targets to achieve. So, it should be one of the foremost targets that India needs to increase its exports. This is one of the most important targets related to our foreign policy which we should have, right? So, higher exports. Now, this is the first thing, how exports will benefit India by substantially increasing the aggregate demand for the domestically produced goods. Now remember, you can also relate this to Make in India, Made in India kind of program, to the continuous effort by the government of India for growing up the MSME sector, for boosting the MSME sector. Now when foreign demand of your domestically produced goods and services increases, you get employment in your economy. That is very important, isn't it? So this is the thing. Yes, okay. So first thing, how exports will help? Increasing the aggregate demand. Second thing, how exports will help? They will reduce India's dependence on foreign savings. What are foreign savings? So, if we export more, we earn foreign exchange, right? So we are less dependent on all other kind of imports, because now you have a resilient foreign exchange reserve. Our foreign exchange reserve are also rising, as you know, we have discussed in the RBI annual report. So when you have good amount of foreign exchange reserve, you need not depend on some other sources to fund your imports. Getting my point? So it will make you independent, it will make your currency strong, it will make you strong, it will create a buffer for you, for your economy, for our economy. Whenever we want to import something, we can, isn't it? Also, when we have good amount of foreign currency reserves, we can also change the exchange rates in the floating market. We can change the currency float. There is something called managed floating. When although foreign exchange rates are decided freely by the demand and supply in the market, but the RBI on the behalf of the central government tries to intervene when we want to stabilize our, say, much appreciating or much depreciating currency. So that helps in managed floating as well, because it is done by selling and buying of foreign currency only, isn't it? You all remember what is managed floating? We have discussed in RBI annual report and one of the editorial classes as well, right? So it can also help in this way, isn't it? While creating much needed jobs for its growing workforce. One more thing, you can connect all the dots together. So first we have connected the growth of exports to aggregate demand, then we can connect it to Make in India, Made in India program, right? Import substitution strategy. What is import substitution? We want to substitute imports with our domestically produced goods. We want more goods and services which we are importing, which are causing us heavy import bills, to be produced in India itself, right? One more thing, as I discussed with you in yesterday's editorial, that India is presently having a phase of demographic dividend in which the highest population is in the working age group. What is demographic dividend? The highest population share is in the working age group. So this is an opportunity we cannot afford to miss upon, because another demographic dividend will take years to come. Getting my point? At the same time, some developed economies are aging, their population is aging, so you can capitalize upon this opportunity. Are you able to understand this? Right? And when you have demographic dividend, it clearly says you have a higher workforce, higher labor force, isn't it? So when you have much labor force, you need employment to give to them so that they can turn into workforce. Because you know, labor force is all those people, the percentage of population able to and willing to work. When they get work, then we call them as a workforce. So we want to transform this labor force, which is hugely available to us right now, into workforce. To shift them from labor force to workforce, we need employment opportunities. And not only through domestic factors, the international factors would work. So raising exports will create demand for domestically produced goods. More production will be needed, more employment will be needed. So that will create employment opportunity that would make your labor force turn into workforce. So you can relate this to ongoing demographic dividend phase as well. Right? This is the thing. Next. Now, author also says that this will help stimulate domestic demand and generate multiplier effect. As I told you, it will stimulate domestic demand and domestic demand increases. Now, why multiplier effect? Now, you all know that there is a driver in a car, okay, that driver is, who is the driver? Aggregate demand, and the steering is your growth, right? So, aggregate demand is the driver of the growth, isn't it? So steering is being handled by your aggregate demand. Remember this picture always. So when you have demand, you have those ripple effects. Okay, more demand, more production, more employment, more income, again more demand, because more income turns into more demand, again more demand. So this cycle, virtuous cycle of growth will go on and on and on. Right? Next, the author says India is on course to become the third largest economy in the coming years. As you all know, India is on the way of becoming third largest economy. However, its share in global merchandise exports is not satisfactory. So we have data as well. Today only in the UPSC MCQ series, there was this question and this statement was there, right? 1.8% share. If you have watched these questions. So the author says, however, its share in global merchandise exports, according to World Trade Organization WTO data, is just 1.8% in 23. So when we are at the, we are very close at becoming third largest economy, our share in global merchandise exports should have been higher as compared to other peers, as compared to other countries. So it is only 1.8% in 2023. This is showing that we are lagging in terms of export policy, in terms of export promotion. There is another comparison given here. So the author compares it with the levels of share of merchandise exports of these countries in the global exports for US and China, which stands to be 8.5 and 14.2 respectively. US 8.5, China 14.2. So now you compare. Isn't it very low as compared to these? Very, very low in comparison to China and also very low in comparison to US, which is 8.5. Isn't it? So there is an issue. We need to increase our merchandise exports so that we come closer to positive trade balance, because India has a negative trade balance in merchandise categories, as you all know. Right? And that's how you can see China has one of the largest shares in the global merchandise exports, and that's why we have negative trade balance with China. Are you able to do the comparisons, right? So these facts highlight the need of more trade on part of India. These facts, you can write these facts, 1.8% contribution, and these comparisons, international comparisons, in your answers as well. Okay, next the author says it has high tariffs. High tariffs. Yes, it is just 1.8%. High tariffs which hampers the export competitiveness of domestic manufacturers, especially micro, small, medium enterprises. Also, there are two things here I need to discuss with you. First thing, cost of production in India is still higher. Okay, cost of production is still higher. When your cost of production is higher, you become your product becomes expensive. Okay, because you want to cover your cost. The aim of the producer is just profit maximization, not public welfare. Public welfare is to be done by the government. So the producer will maximize his profit. Now, if cost of production for the producer is higher, that means that the price, the MRP of that product will also be higher. So your products will be less competitive in the international market, where there are similar products being produced at a lower cost of production, so they have lower prices, because those countries might have good amount of technology, good state of the art technology, good amount of resources, efficient resource utilization due to better technology, all these things. So we need to improvise upon this thing, the backward and the forward linkages. Okay, we not only need to increase the export, we also need to work upon the backward linkages. What is happening with the input costs? What is the cost of production of our products? Backward linkages. Then only our forward linkages will work better. Then you will always automatically be able to export more, be more competitive in the market among your peers. Getting my point? So India needs to work both on the backward linkage front, input cost, cost of production, adequate supply of inputs, state of the art technology, good machinery, good capital, right? And then that would automatically result into better forward linkages, which are your more exports to the countries, right? Yes, China has a very lower cost of production. Okay, that's how it is able to dominate the market. The products are able to dominate the market. So this is the thing highlighted here. Got this? Okay, let's move ahead. Now one more thing highlighted by the author, which is that India is not a part of any significant regional preferential trade agreement. So this is another concern, that we are unable to sell our products at lower tariffs offered by other countries. What is preferential trade agreement, PTA? You all know these are set by your WTO, right? WTO. So preferential trade agreement is a type of generalized system of preferences as per WTO, in which the country which signs the PTA gets lower tariffs. Okay, lower tariffs. So basically it reduces the tariffs which are generally going on in the market. The tariff rate which is in the market is higher, and then in PTA, preferential trade agreement, the country offers you, if you sign the PTA, the country offers you lower tariffs. You also have to offer lower tariffs, right? So India has not signed these PTAs, that is also a concern which would have reduced input cost and helped India become a part of the global value chain. Otherwise, it could have helped India with lower tariffs. So our goods would have been, easily entering into the international markets. Why India did so? I'll explain you. Another thing. So you got what is preferential trade agreement is, right? PTA. Another thing, another issue highlighted here is the RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. India, as you know, did not sign the RCEP. You all know this, right? Current affairs thing. So India decided to stay away from the RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. This has an implication on our trade policies, but we had to do this. There were reasons that India abstained from signing this RCEP dominated by China. Okay. First thing, what is RCEP? Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. It is a kind of free trade agreement, FTA. Okay. What is a free trade agreement? What is FTA? Free trade agreements are agreements signed between countries where we agree to allow each other's products at very nominal tariffs, okay, or custom duties, or say sometimes no tariffs, free trade without tariffs. So either nominal tariffs, very nominal, or no tariffs. So this is your free trade agreement. So it allows the products enter freely into your market, products of another countries. So RCEP is one of them, as you know, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, one of the largest FTAs signed ever, one of the largest. I think presently 15 countries have signed RCEP, in which your 10 countries are from ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations. So 10 countries are from ASEAN, another 5 regional countries. But India abstained from it. Also remember, it is dominated by China. And you can imagine the strength of this group with the fact that it holds 30% of the world's GDP. The amount of GDP produced, GDP contribution of all these countries, 30% of global GDP, RCEP countries, around 30%, okay. So that makes this very important. But why India abstained? Why did India abstain from signing RCEP, PTA? Now try to understand. We wanted to protect our producers, you know, okay. You all know that we already have higher cost of productions, right? Therefore, our goods are also expensive, isn't it? Now, what has happened in case of RCEP? If you have heard about food processing industry, among all other things, I'm just giving you an example, okay. So let's talk about food processing industry. You all know what is food processing industry? It processes your agricultural based products into more valuable final finished products. Say tomato to ketchup, say potato to chips, isn't it? Raw vegetables to pickles. So all your food processing industry is a very huge prospective industry for India, allied sector of Indian agriculture, where we can shift our employment opportunities, the people who are heavily dependent upon agriculture, from agriculture to food processing. Yes, but in food processing, if you talk about dairy products, we also process the dairy products. There is a huge difference. There is a huge difference between the global average of processing and what India processes, okay. So say if India is able to process around 26-27%, New Zealand is able to process 98%, 99% of its dairy products. Getting my point? So New Zealand is one of the members in the RCEP. Remember, now you can understand this sharp difference. Those countries are able to process more food because they have state-of-the-art technologies, they have lower cost of production. They are able to indulge in food processing of all these products up to 98%. So you can imagine that if we would have opened up our economy to these players, these countries like China, New Zealand, okay, who are able to process up to 98%, 98, 99, 97, around these figures. If you see the food processing data, global averages and Indian average, right? They are able to process at this much amount, then you can imagine our economy, our products related to this food processing would have been destroyed. Why? We are not able to process that much. We don't have lower cost of production. We don't have that much good technology or technical know-how. Right? So they would have captured our markets. Then the employment would have suffered. Employment opportunities would have suffered. Everywhere you will have these products. No space for domestic products. because they will face stiff competition. Why? These countries are able to process around 98% with lower cost of production, and you are not able to process even the half of it. Okay. In that case, you will have higher prices, they will have lower prices, consumer will go with the lower prices only. For them it doesn't matter which country has processed the product or made the product. Who will suffer? Domestic producers of India. They would have suffered. That's why India did not sign RCEP. Remember, Chinese products would have flooded into Indian market, which is already the case, right? So these are the reasons that we abstain from PTA, from RCEP to protect our domestic economy. But that is somewhere leading to certain loss as well. Okay. Otherwise, our products would also have got an opportunity to to international markets, to enter the international market easily, but that opportunity would have been outpaced or surpassed by the cost which we would have incurred or occurred. Okay, because if we would have signed the RCEP, the losses were expected to be more than the profits. That's why India abstained from signing RCEP. Yes, okay. So this is the thing, right? So it is a significant trade agreement in one of the world's most dynamic regions, primarily due to concerns over China's, also dominated by China. And we want more trade avenues apart from China now. Our import bill is extremely, corrupted due to trade with China. We have a heavy import bill from China. So we want more avenues to diversify our trade with. Getting my point? So I hope you understood all these things. Why did India abstain from RCEP? What happens? How do you protect your economy? All these things, right? So this is the thing highlighted by the author. Let's see what author says next. Next, the author says, however, it has not helped reduce dependence on Chinese imports. We abstain from signing RCEP. But the author is saying it did not help us so much on the part of reducing our dependence on China for imports. We are still dependent heavily. So we need to export more. That will only help. Okay. Although India has signed free trade agreements with individuals, we have free trade agreements with other countries. We have signed, but not RCEP, but other FTAs we have signed, right? Other countries, it may not help in integrate into global value chains. So author is saying, although we have free trade agreements existing there, which India has signed with a lot of countries, but that would not only help. Only FTA will not help. Along with FTA, you have to have higher exports if you want to reduce your dependence on China, if you want to make your trade more favorable to your nation. Getting my point? Then further, author says India must prepare for increasing concerns about climate as well. This is also a concern for Indian exports. Remember, the European Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism is a threat to Indian products. Why is it a threat? Because under European Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, European Union is aiming to increase tariffs on products which are very high on carbon intensity, which have released high carbon emissions. So all those products entering into EU's market are facing higher tariffs. One such country is India. So Indian products we need to ensure that we are able to produce goods with lesser carbon intensity, because now we are also facing environmental or say carbon emission backlashes from the world. Getting my point? If you need to sustain these kind of initiatives by European Union, by other countries, you need to make your products greener, isn't it? So only increasing export won't help. Making exports more green with lesser carbon intensity is going to help. That would be the future for India, isn't it? So this is also something important. Climate action also be required to be integrated with your export policy, otherwise you will not be able to sustain in the international market. Understood? Okay, next on the services side, now the author highlights the service sector about the export, because we not only trade in merchandise, we also trade in services, right? So let's talk about services. On the services side, India has done well. So author says, as you all know, in services sector we have a favorable trade balance. We export more than we are importing in case of services. Okay, so India has done well over the years. India is 7th largest exporter of services, 7th largest exporter of services, and has shown greater resilience amid global uncertainties as well. In fact, India's service sector has evolved from mere outsourcing to developing capabilities and research centers. Earlier, we were known for supplying, for being centers of outsourcing, BPO. But now, it is not only BPO. India is providing global avenues for research centers, world-class research centers. We are providing global, developing capabilities. We are providing analytics, finance help, financial analytics. So all these services are also being provided by India. That's why India stands one of the highest exporters of services. So that is true. So we should capitalize upon this service part. Getting my point? So services contribution should also be increased further. We can do well or more good on this part. Okay. Next, as a recent research, the author says, as per recent research by some economists at the Reserve Bank of India have highlighted that compared to 2015-16 level, the number of global capability centers in India increased by 60% in 22-23, highlighting India as a favored destination for multinational companies. This is a very important fact. You can write this fact because it is directly taken from your RBI. Okay, so RBI, some economists at RBI have researched it and they have given this data that as compared to 2015-16 level, if we see the number of global capability centers in India, they have increased by 60%. That is a huge amount. By 60% in 22-23. It shows that multinational companies are having more faith and confidence into India. They are very optimistic about India's growth prospects. Now, what are these global capability centers? These are services provided, multinational companies, as you all know, they have some overseas centers from where they outsource their services like financial analytics, like IT services, computer software based services, right? All these services. Yeah, I am explaining what is a capability center. So these are your global capability centers. Suppose there is a company X, the company is located somewhere else. It has its different capability centers. One of, number of them are there in India. They are providing research facility to them. They are providing customer care to them. They are providing financial help or data analytics to them. Okay. So IT services, software based services to them. This is your global capability center concept, right? So these kind of services are being outsourced from India. India has witnessed the arrival of these global capability centers in India by 60%, increased by 60%. Understood what is a global capability center? Yes or no? I hope you understood, right? So outsourcing these services, it is now far beyond BPO, which India was known for at the earlier stages. Now we provide financial analytics. We are very good at that. Data analytics, software based services, solutions. Okay. All these things. So it shows that multinational companies are having confidence in Indian economy. So you need to capitalize upon it. You need to do well with their part. You need to have more ease of doing business so that they can create opportunities of employment in your economy. They can add to your economic growth. Isn't it? Okay. So this is the thing. But then the author, this is good, but there is a contrast here. The author highlights that despite this strength, despite this strength, services exports registered a 3-year low growth rate of 4.9% in 23-24. This is not satisfactory. This is the problem. We need to address this problem. What are the reasons? What actually are the reasons? Why, despite having so much of, from the side of services, India performing so very well at the international level, multinational companies coming to India, making their products or assembly lines or say capability centers established in India, production units established in India, right? Still why your services exports registered a 3-year low growth of 4.9% in 23-24? Yes, that data is different. RBI annual report 1. The comparison is different. Okay, so if we talk about last 3 years, it is the trend. That data was talking about your 23-24 only. So need not get confused. Just remember, as compared to other countries, last 3 years it is less. Okay, in last 3 years it is less. RBI annual report talks about the 23-24 financial year. Okay, don't get confused between these things. So comparison is different here. So this is the thing. It means services, there is some glitch, some problem with services exports. We need to improvise upon it. We need to improve our services sector. Then we can, services sector still contributing much to the GDP. It can contribute more to the GDP, right? It can lead to more employment generation in the economy, isn't it? Now, to boost services exports, India must invest in human capital. Apart from other things, one thing highlighted by author is, you want services to be, exports to be increased, you have to invest in human capital. Because production you can do by machinery, but for services you need human resources, human capital only, right? So India needs to invest in education, world-class skill development. You need to have good or world-class higher education facilities, vocational training, skill development. Those investments in your human resource will finally give you, provide you with an opportunity of reaping out the benefits of higher services sector exports, right? So to boost service exports, India must invest in human capital. Since services really rely heavily on skilled personnel, significant investment in basic and advanced education, professional training, research and development is required. So these are certain suggestions given by the author. Then diversifying services export destination. Yes, you also need to diversify your services export destination. Do not concentrate them with some countries only. As you know, presently US and Canada account for more than half of India's services exports, but that makes your country vulnerable to anything which happens to these countries. Are you getting my point? So we have read that US is the largest export destination for India, isn't it? Other one is Canada. But if you rely heavily on a few countries for your exports to be, for your goods to be exported, any economic slowdown in those countries can affect your exports significantly, isn't it? If say there is a recession, there is a slump in such a country, that country will no longer be in a position to export, to import from your country. You will no longer be able to export that much to that country, because that country will have to manage its forex reserves then. Right? So it will increase your dependence, it will increase your risk to any economic fluctuations. Right? So this increases your risks to financial crisis, to financial shocks, to economic shocks worldwide. So if you want to make your exports immune to these fluctuations, diversify your revenues. You need to diversify your centers where you are exporting. Right? So from one center, one country, you are not getting the demand for your products, you can export to some other country, isn't it? We will resume the RBI annual report class now, maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow, very soon, okay? maybe in max 1 or 2 days we will resume the class, and we will complete whatever is left, whatever important is left. Okay, we will complete the report as well, don't worry about that. So this is the thing. So you need to diversify your export avenues. This is what author is saying. You understood? You need to distribute the risk. Do not concentrate it with 1 or 2 countries. Yeah, I know. You need not worry about that. We will complete the report. All the parts which have been done so far, just revise them. All the remaining section which is not repeated. Also, one thing we have noted in the report, it is a more than 300 pages report. In the second part of the report, everything is repeatedly given in detailed facts, detailed concepts, everything is repeated again. So we are filtering out the relevant information. We don't want repetition of the same facts which we have done so far. Okay, so avoiding repetition would save your time as well. We will complete everything which is important for you. You need not worry about that. We will do that. Okay, you just keep on studying, keep on revising. Okay, we will not leave anything incomplete. Okay, we will complete everything. It's just that sometime we need to prioritize, because the UPSC CSE was scheduled to be on 16th of your scheduled on your 16th June. So we first completed the UPSC MCQ series. Now we will take up the RBI report as well. You need not worry about these things. Okay, all right. So have you understood all these things? Why do we need to diversify the exports avenues, right? We need to distribute the risk basically. So at the end, the author says one thing which also we can capitalize upon. No, the Indian economy, that series is for UPSC. Also, you can also refer to those questions. They might help you in RBI as well. Okay, but particularly they are designed for CSE prelims. Okay, so at the end, let's discuss that author says, given the geopolitical conditions, multinational corporations are looking to diversify away from China. You all know there is this concept going on, China plus one, isn't it? Yes or no? We have discussed it in one of the earlier editorials as well, China plus one. So basically the MNCs are also looking for diversified avenues other than China to reduce their dependence on China, right? Given this geopolitical condition, MNCs looking for further avenues, you can make your economy more attractive to them so that you can have more production, you can export more. You also need to diversify your sources, your export targets, your markets for exports, and reduce your dependence on China, right? So this presents an opportunity for India as well. When MNCs only are looking for new avenues, we can provide them with better opportunities. So it is an opportunity for us, right? To attract investment and expand its manufacturing. We can attract foreign investments in this, given this scenario, given this geopolitical scenario. That investment will boost production activity and economic activity in India. That would generate employment. That would increase manufacturing activities in India. India can have state-of-the-art technologies, because when MNCs come, MNCs are well equipped with the latest technologies. Private companies do not bring efficiency and experience, they also bring with themselves new technologies. You will get new technologies as well for your industries, right? So, which will also increase India's export competitiveness. So, all these things will increase India's export competitiveness. And now, this was what was the article talking about. So, India needs to export more. Otherwise, this growth prospect, which we are very optimistic about, will not be able to give that much benefit which is expected out of it. Every section of the society will not be able to reap benefit out of it unless the growth is inclusive, unless the growth results into more employment opportunities, unless we are able to capitalize upon the demographic dividend thing, we are able to transform the labor force into workforce. So given all these scenarios, we have discussed all these things, free trade agreements, stand of India in FTA, RCEP, connecting all the dots, finally what comes out is India needs to boost upon exports, and that too cannot be done without environmental concerns. We need to adhere to the new environmental concerns sprouting all of the world, isn't it? if we want to face lower tariffs. Otherwise your product will not be able to enter into markets of countries and of markets like European Union, as we have seen. So this was the editorial. I hope you have understood. You all have enjoyed this editorial. Is there any doubt? I am waiting if there is any question from today's class. Otherwise, I'll then stop it here. And any questions? Any doubts, questions, queries? So no doubts, all right. Then thank you so much. Thank you so much for staying focused and interactive. So that is it for today. Thank you so much and have a very great day. I'll see you in the next session. Okay. All right.